You know the story, right? For centuries, sailors have whispered tales of the Flying Dutchman, this terrifying ghost ship, all aglow with an eerie light, just doomed to sail the oceans forever, never able to make port. It's probably the most famous maritime legend of all time.
But here's a thought. What if the truth behind this legend isn't supernatural at all? What if the explanation is something physical? And honestly, something far more disturbing.
You see, there's this one scientific theory, and it's pretty unsettling, that suggests the Flying Dutchman isn't a ghost story. Not at all. It's a hypothesis that's rooted in the grim, tragic reality of maritime history.
It's called the surfacing shipwreck theory, and the idea is that this phantom vessel people have been seeing for centuries is, on incredibly rare occasions, a real ship, a centuries-old wreck briefly rising up from its watery grave before just vanishing back into the deep.
Now, to understand how this could even be possible, we have to go right to the heart of the legend itself, the infamous Cape of Good Hope, just off the coast of South Africa.
Back in the age of sail, these waters were a supercritical trade route. But the storms there are violent, the seas are totally unpredictable. It made it one of the most dangerous places on the planet for a ship. It was, and really it still is, a ship graveyard.
And when I say graveyard, I mean it. How big are we talking? Well, historical records have documented over 3,000 shipwrecks in this area alone. 3,000 vessels, each one with its own crew, its own story, just lost to the waves.
So here's the point. The seabed here is literally littered with forgotten history. This massive underwater cemetery off the Cape of Good Hope, it provides the perfect setting. It's the first crucial ingredient for this whole theory. So, the big question is, how on earth could a waterlogged, sunken ship possibly float again? Well, the answer is in a combination of a very rare trigger and some, well, surprisingly simple physics. Okay, first, you need some kind of powerful event to disturb the wreck. Think of a massive underwater current, or maybe a small earthquake, or even a big shift in the seabed that could physically knock a ship loose from its final resting place.
Now, once it's dislodged, the secret ingredient here is buoyancy. You've heard of it, right? In simple terms, it's just the upward push of water. And you know what creates a really powerful buoyant force? Trapped air.
The whole idea is actually pretty simple. Imagine pushing an empty cup upside down into a bathtub full of water. You can feel the water pushing back up, can't you? That feeling? That's the lift from the trapped air. Now, scale that feeling up to the massive sealed cargo holds of a centuries-old wooden ship. That is a lot of lift.
So, here's how the whole thing would play out. A tremor on the seabed knocks the wreck loose. That powerful lift from the trapped air pockets sends the ancient ship surging up towards the surface. And for just a few fleeting moments, it breaks through the waves. Before the old wood finally gives way, the air rushes out and it sinks once more, completely vanishing without a trace.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This whole scientific process doesn't just sound dramatic. It actually aligns perfectly with centuries of witness accounts of the Flying Dutchman. Think about it. The legend describes an ancient, decrepit-looking ship, while our theory gives us a genuine, centuries-old wreck. The legend says it appears out of nowhere and vanishes just as fast. Our theory describes a rapid ascent and descent that would only last a few minutes. And the legend places it near the Cape of Good Hope, exactly where we find this huge concentration of shipwrecks. It's a perfect match. So, you can see how well the theory holds up, right? A surfacing shipwreck would, of course, look ancient and damaged, with rotting planks and whatever was left of its tattered sails. And its fleeting appearance and sudden vanishing act are totally explained by the physics of buoyancy and, well, the eventual failure of the old hull. But this is where the science stops being just a clever explanation. This is where it takes a profoundly dark, even chilling turn. This is where we have to confront what a real sighting would actually mean. If this theory is correct, then anybody who has ever claimed to have seen the Flying Dutchman wasn't seeing an optical illusion or some ghostly apparition. No, they were witnessing a real ship, an actual tomb momentarily rising from the ocean floor. Just let that sink in for a second. It's not a ghost ship haunting the seas. It's a grave. A mass grave for sailors who died, probably violently, hundreds of years ago, breaking the surface for just a few brief, shocking moments. And suddenly, the whole legend transforms. It's not about a cursed captain and his phantom crew anymore. It becomes this tangible, horrifying glimpse into a real historical tragedy,
a moment where the past literally surfaces to remind us of the thousands and thousands of lives claimed by the sea.
So, the next time you hear the story of the Flying Dutchman, maybe consider this, that the real horror isn't a ghost who can't find its way home, but the fleeting, shocking resurrection of a real tomb from the abyss and a glimpse of the silent victims still trapped inside.